we welcome in Tom to the conversation. Tom, I want to go back and start with you with Razorback basketball. There are several different things that Clay, myself, and Drew have talked about already that stood out in this 1-point loss. What's at the top of the list for you?
Good morning, guys. Pleasure to be with you. The thing that stood out to me most was probably the field goal shooting was so low, and they had about 4 possessions where they just had multiple offensive rebounds, and I don't think they stuck it back on any of those. Is the one that had three Kamani rebounds and 1 Tony, and then another one with there was a media timeout in the middle of it. 4 different shots, and I don't know. I guess Alabama was playing decent defense, but they just missed a bunch of point blank putback tries.
Yeah, the offensive rebounds that Arkansas had, I think back to that one possession that you just referred to, and I'm listening to Chuck and Z call it and just thinking, man, how many bunnies, how many layups are they going to miss? And you think about Chris Lykes going 1 for 8. You had Audis Tony going 1 for 11, several near the rim for them. It was just not a great shooting day. But, Tom, what I think a lot of people were wondering is how emotional would this team come out lackadaisical, especially in the first half. And this team didn't. They got off to a 5-0 start. They couldn't shoot the basketball. What was it? Just if you had to boil it down, kind of like you were saying, was shooting the biggest issue? Is that why they lost on Saturday? If you had to put one thing at the top of the list.
Yeah, that's my take on it. Is that just lack of good field goal shooting, and Lykes, he's been playing well lately, and I just think he took some 15, 16, 17 footers that might have been semi in the flow, but he wasn't on, and he kept shooting. And, the same with Tony. I felt so bad for him. He had 2 or 3 near dunk opportunities with all these, family and friends in attendance. Huntsville's just a couple hours away from Tuscaloosa, and he couldn't get any of them to go down. He got fouled on some of them, and he just had a rough day. And, I think J.D. Notae should have learned from the end of the Auburn game that, Wendell Green took a tough 3-pointer. Maybe there's just a certain thrill in winning a game with a last-second 3, but there's so many better things and higher percentage shots that can come from you pushing the ball toward the goal. Because if you draw a bunch of contact, you can get a foul. If you draw help, you can dish to somebody for a dunk. And I just think that when there's that much time left on the clock, go to the hole, and better things can happen for you. And he ended up taking a 3, and not only a 3, but an off-balance 3 that didn't have much of a chance.
Yeah, we can blame Steph Curry for that, for so many players watching what he does at the end of the games and thinking they're Steph Curry in that situation. We're talking with Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Whole Hog Sports, as we do every Monday and Thursday. Now, you mentioned Audis Tony, and they had a homecoming game of sorts in Athens for J.D. Notae, Chance Moore, Daniel Musselman, and there's one, maybe Trey Wade was the other one, but not a good homecoming showing. Tom, when a guy comes back home, when he goes out of state to play somewhere, and in this case it's Audis Tony, who initially started his career at Pitt and then come to Arkansas, it seemed like the pressure got to him a little bit. How nervous do you think he actually was playing about 2.5 hours from kind of where he grew up in Huntsville?
Well, when you got that much family and you want to do some special things, and I don't think he necessarily forced any of the issues because he doesn't handle the ball, at end of shot clock situations or things like that. But he did get some dishes and he did get some offensive rebounds that you don't usually push those back out. You just go back up. And I know he got fouled on some of them, and he missed a couple of dunks. But I don't think he forced things. I just think he was a little bit off from down low. And honestly, I think both teams, there was a lot of contact, and the officials, I think, did a good job of establishing, I guess, what you'd call the flow of the calls in that game. I wrote a note about the 2 reviewed calls because I've seen over and over and over the Devo save on the sideline, and I can't tell if his foot touches before he throws it off the guy. But that was initially Arkansas's ball. So I don't know how they saw clear evidence in Birmingham that his foot had landed before he threw it. And then the other one, I thought for sure that J.D. Davidson had swiped it away from Tony. Tony's hand was there, but it was J.D. Davis and impetus that knocked the ball out. So, I don't know. I thought Arkansas might get the ball back with 4.5, but they did not.
Yeah, and that's what Clay and I were discussing this past segment, how we both felt like that there wasn't enough conclusive evidence. I mean, it just looked like Devo threw it off the guy, and he didn't come down just yet. But I guess, as you just said, the replay officials in Birmingham saw something different. Now, guys and gals, if you look at the SEC standings, right now Arkansas is in fourth place, and they're up 2 games from anyone. There's a bunch of teams right now that are tied in 6-6. Tom, looking the rest of the way, are you pretty confident that this Arkansas basketball team, even with a really difficult schedule down the stretch, do you think they're going to lock up a top 4 seed in the SEC heading into Tampa in the tournament?
Well, it's going to be tough. I mean, 2 games with Tennessee, and they still have Kentucky, Florida to go, and LSU at home, and LSU's playing a little bit better right now. So they probably, I'm going to do a note on this for tomorrow's SEC report in the Democrat-Gazette, adding up the remaining schedules, and it's probably the toughest among all those, the 4 that are in right now, which will be Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, and then the ones that are all at 6-6 or 5-6, which is and Alabama's in there, and I think Florida and LSU and Mississippi State. So I'm not sold that Arkansas is for sure going to be in the top 4. They, winning the game at Florida would be huge for them. Splitting with Tennessee would be big, and winning out at home. And I think if you win out at home, you're probably going to be in that top 4.
Clay, you might have to help me out with this. Arkansas, I believe, still hasn't won in Gainesville since the 90s. Is that right? I think that still holds up.
Yeah, I don't remember one, Tom.
No, I covered one that was relatively close, and Moses Kingsley was on the team. And there was just some mystery calls at the end of the game on that one, and Florida ended up winning by a decent margin. But no, that has been a very, very tough place for them to win. I think tougher than Rupp Arena, because I've covered in my career, I've covered like Alabama's won there a couple times, and Arkansas the year that Arkansas was perfect from the free throw line and beat them in overtime.
I think, Tom, the game that you're just referring to, I think Atlantis Harris got that block at the end of the game. They called a foul, and Florida went on to win. If that's the game I'm remembering correctly, because I remember I was just watching that, and I was just livid in frustration after that game. Now, kind of the SEC news that's taken this past news cycle by storm in the last week or so, Tom, has been the Brian Harsin stuff. And I think a lot of us thought, as of last week, well, he's done. There's no way he stays on. Well, he's been retained. And this is about the most stained, this is about the most putrid, ugly, clashy relationship that we've seen from an SEC coach. And just a year into school, what's your gut feeling on Auburn football this year? Because mine is this: there's no way this team can have success based on what's happened in the offseason.
Well, I mean, they could still win some SEC games. They'll still have decent talent. I know they didn't bring in a great recruiting class, and they've lost some coaches, but it's the relationship between Harsin and the upper brass there. How do you ever really repair that? I mean, I know that the president said all the things that you're supposed to say, that we fully endorse, wholeheartedly back Brian Harsin, and I don't know, maybe this is just a comment on today's culture that it was clear that they were investigating the program, that so many players had left and said negative things about him. But and the thing is, when it gets out there that they may be trying to find ways to fire him for cause, I mean, that creates a rift that I don't know if you ever repair it. And so it looks as if on the surface they're waiting for a moment when the buyout is not as large, or and the support wanes even more to pull the trigger on firing him. So it's going to be a very weird go in 2022 with Harsin there. And I have buddies who are in the state, and most of them felt that, when he got back from that vacation in Mexico, that it was not going to go. I mean, they were going to let him go. And, when you have columnists in that state writing that, this is ruptured, and this looks like what happens when Dwight Schrute's put in charge at Dunder Mifflin, how do you come back from that? And look, I don't doubt that they're going to be in games. Look, they had a chance to beat Alabama at the end of the year last year, y'all. They blew a huge lead against Mississippi State, they came in here. It's probably one of their best games, and it was in control in the second half against Arkansas. So the talent will be there. They'll probably win some games, but probably not enough to make people happy. And when it's all said and done, within 1 year or 2 years, Harsin will probably be gone.
Tom, I'll let you go with this, and as always, we appreciate you making some time for us on a Monday. I look at today and Thursday and Friday of the NCAA tournament as being three of the least productive days of the year for the American workforce because of just kind of the things associated. Now, for today, there's not a sporting event going on, but people are suffering from maybe drinking too much or eating too much from yesterday. Am I in the right line of thinking? Are these three, not for us as sports writers and radio people, but you think these are three of the most unproductive or non-productive holidays of sorts of the year?
Well, Ty, I appreciate your outside-the-box thinking. But, I agree. It should be. But it's Valentine's Day. So everybody, has got to get back up today and deliver for their loved ones, man. So, no, I'm going to dive into – I'm excited to get into this SEC report, read all about it tomorrow, the finishing stretches for all these teams, who's your pick for MVP in the SEC, all that kind of stuff. I'm jacked up for today, and I've got something for my wife already. I'm in good shape.
I was going to say, make sure you have plans for. We were joking about that earlier this morning in hour number one. That even though you might not be feeling the best today, that people are going to expect, significant others are going to expect a full welcoming of sorts tonight. So, Tom, best in luck in your adventure and your venture tonight, and we'll talk more Arkansas basketball on Thursday, man.
All right. Enjoy visiting with y'all. See ya.
All right. Good stuff from Tom Murphy.
The game is finally here as we hit Super Sunday with the last game of the football season. From scored, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, Betonline is the #1 spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And with the new year comes a new updated desktop and mobile website. Sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get started. That's BLEAV. And it's not just football. BetOnline's basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC odds coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your #1 online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts.